Right guys, welcome back to another video on my channel. Now today we're going to be doing the big A-level revision video. It's been requested a lot, but basically I thought there's not a better time to bring it out than now, because obviously with it being New Year, you've got New Year's resolutions to revise more, and you always tell yourself you're going to revise more from January onwards. If you're wondering, should I watch this video or should I actually be revising, I would definitely say this video is revision, because all the tips and tricks that I learned over like the last 2 years of my A-levels condensed into this one video, and some of these tips and tricks were the reasons why I done well, and like every mark matters. So this video is basically revision, and also there are other revision videos on my channel. There'll be a playlist link down below in the description, so go check them out. And the way this is going to work is that basically at first we're going to have some general tips for like all the A-levels and how you should revise and what I found useful, and then we're going to jump into specifically A-level maths, politics and economics. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the video. Now before we jump into tips and tricks, I do want to mention the revision guides that are finally out. There's maths, which gives examples of all the tips and tricks and hidden things that you can find in questions, etc. And there's politics that just covers all the course content, no nonsense, and gives examples for the whole of the government and politics A-level. Even more useful for A2 because there's no revision guide for politics, so I've made my own. That'll be linked down in the description. So what I've done, I've made some notes basically on what I need to mention in this video so I don't forget anything. These tips and tricks, it was kind of like at AS, I didn't really use them, I didn't really know of them, and I got B, C, D, E, but then I kind of figured out essentially how to play the system a bit more and ended up with BBB. And play the system, you'll understand what I mean about that later on, but I'm basically referring to examiners don't know every quote in the world this real. They don't have the time to, you know, research every single quote. So as long as you know a person, the quote then follows on, you can make it up, is what I'm trying to say. And that's exactly what I did for the whole of the A2 politics, and I pretty much got an A in A2 politics and a B in AS politics, obviously a B overall. Okay, so first up, I want to say general tips about revision. I left my phone at home and I went to the library. Because when you leave your phone at home, there's no option for you to go on your phone. Crazy how much of a distraction going on your phone is, and maybe just texting for 5 minutes, because it just makes you start thinking about other stuff once you see a message from your friends. And it's kind of like as soon as you get a message from your friends, you reply to it, you're like, oh no, I need to finish this up quick, I need to go out, and all you can think about is going out, and then the revision is basically just useless what you're doing. So leave your phone at home, go to the library. You don't always need headphones. Admittedly, I did use headphones towards the end of the revision period, but that was when I was so drained, I was like, I need to listen to music. But I tried to, and made sure that up until like a few months before my exams, I wasn't using headphones, because I was still revising a lot, but it wasn't super intense. Because when it got to like a month before my exams, revision was like 9 till 6 every day at the library, and that sort of vibe. So it was like I had to have headphones then, otherwise I'd probably pass out of revision. But up until then, I made sure I was focused, kind of concentrated. I know some people do prefer revising with headphones in, but it's just my opinion, obviously. The quiet rooms in the library are quite good, because in the quiet rooms there's no like distractions and everyone's kind of silent. And another thing that I mentioned about staying in the library the whole time it's open, the only reason I was able to do that was because there were other people, like peers essentially, that from all different schools in my area revising like that, and that honestly helped so much, knowing that everybody was staying 9 till 6. Like I didn't want to be that person who left early, I wanted to be the person that stuck it out, and it was kind of like that weird kind of extra motivation that I had to revise essentially. So I'd say if that's what you need, then you've got to find people that aren't going to distract you. Like don't go to the library with your best friends, like you just end up gossiping and talking about a load of rubbish the whole time. I've done that several times in my life. You go to the library with a friend, it's a good idea, and you end up just talking about football, you end up talking about other stuff. In regards to like revision methods, one of the things that I found is that when I was like almost on the edge of like, oh, I'm tearing my hair out, I can't revise anymore, which you might not even be at that stage yet, but it will happen, like mark my words, come back to this video like a month before your exams, because you'll be stressing out, you'll be like tearing your hair out, like the revision just gets literally mad. I don't know what it is about A-levels, there's something about them, just like you're so burnt out from revision, it's kind of useful to just look at the question, then look at the mark scheme, then look at the question, then the mark scheme, without thinking much, because you still learn, and it's a nice relaxing bit of revision. And that's one thing that I found helped me towards the end of my exams as well. Now moving on to the actual specific advice for the subject. So obviously first up, probably the most popular subject, A-level maths. Maths is definitely the subject that stressed me out the most, and it's definitely the subject that I've been getting stressed of at uni, because there's a lot of maths and economics, the Bsc, what I'm doing. I made a list of all the key common mistakes that I was making, key common tricks as well that the examiners were putting in questions that I always fell for. I made a note of them. That was kind of useful for me, because before my exam I printed out these sheets that throughout the whole 6 months leading up to my exams, every time I got a question wrong, and it was a recurring thing because I kept making the same mistake, I wrote it down, and then before my exam I looked at the sheet, I was like, okay, this is what you do, don't do what I always do, which is make this mistake. And well, I guess it helped, and that literally saved me a lot, because I only got a B in maths by 1 UMS, and literally every bit of revision I did counted. So I would say definitely useful for me. Key formulas are such a big thing in maths. I'd say you need to memorize all of the key formulas. Otherwise, it's just a bit like, oh gosh, the key formulas can be a bit of a nightmare. Be familiar with the formula sheet, but I'm sure you are if you're doing maths. Exam solutions, and yeah, that's the thing. Like, obviously, exam solutions, he's a lifesaver. But the problem is, you get so used to following his methods, and he's only obviously got selected questions and certain examples, and he only does it his way, basically. And sometimes if you look at another video upon the same topic area, they might show you a different way, because sometimes in questions at the very end of exam papers, there's only like one way you can kind of do it, if that makes any sense. So like, there's 2 methods normally to do it, and if it was like the first half of the paper, you could do it any method. But when it comes to the last bit of the question, there's like only a certain way to do it. So it's always good to like broaden your horizon, just so you never get stumped by a different method, or if it wants you to do something slightly different to what you've been learned. And if you're tired out from revising maths, because maths past papers are intense, like when I tell you, like, you're like, I just done a past paper, like, you're fully burnt out. It's quite good to just watch videos of like people answering questions, and that's what I did a lot. I don't know if that's me being lazy instead of doing another past paper, but I just thought, you know what, I'm too tired to do another past paper. Let me just sit here with my headphones in and watch exam solutions, answer a few questions, and it was still good enough. It still got my brain ticking, and I was still making connections, etc. So I found that really useful, and I would recommend, definitely. Question practice was how I did it. Okay, that makes sense. So basically, the only reason I done well in maths is from practicing question after question after question after question, and using the key summaries pages in the C3, C4, C5 textbook. Not C5, I don't know why I said that. But yeah, I never really read through the chapters once we went over them in class. If anything, I would use exam solutions, key summaries, and past papers to revise. I always went to math support and made sure that if I didn't understand it, I would ask a question. If I didn't understand it after they told me how to do it, I would ask again. And if I still didn't ask, I'd wait till that teacher left and ask the different teacher. So it's always good to keep asking if you don't understand. Maths is just hard. Maths is just all round stressful, and I've made a lot of videos on A-level maths over the last few years. So basically, I want to say, if you're still wanting more information on this, go check out my A-level revision for maths specifically. There's quite a lot of good stuff on there, and some of the tips that I haven't covered in this bit of the video will be because I've covered them in other videos. So definitely go check them out if you want to revise some more. There'll be a playlist linked somewhere. I'll link it in the description. But yeah, overall for maths, I always say to avoid silly mistakes. I am the guy for making silly mistakes. So imagine in my year abroad thing, I wrote 3,000 words. It was 3,000 characters they wanted. So I read the question essentially wrong twice, and I basically had to redo my application twice because I'm a bit of an idiot like that. And it's just from like not paying attention. So definitely pay attention, read the question, and never ever make any silly mistakes in the exam. It's too crucial. Like, one more silly mistake and I would not even be at University of York. Just like, think about it like that. It's just crazy how one silly mistake can change your whole life. Like, this is deep, but it's actually true. And yeah, that was deep. Moving on to A-level economics. Now, I am bringing out a video about economics degree and completely 100% what is that like in detail, pure detail. That will be coming out very soon as well. So yeah, to be honest, I didn't actually have that much to say about economics because there was something about the classroom lessons that just seemed so easy, especially for macro, and it was just like, oh yeah, I understand everything. And then the exams I'd always do badly, so I don't know what it was about that. And then I was kind of, obviously I got a B in that. Who knows whether it was high, whether it was low, whether it was middle. That's a mystery. I don't really care, to be honest. And it would have been nice to know. I wish I knew deep down. But how did I revise? Literally, it was all econ plus style. I didn't really do that many separate questions. Obviously, I'd done a few past paper questions, made sure that I was like following the PIL or PESL or econ plus style structure. And I done a fair few multiple choice, but multiple choice is just hit and miss realistically. My tips and tricks, obviously rinse out econ plus styles videos. I literally remember when I walked into the economics exam before my actual exam into the study room, everybody, there was literally like 50 computers just watching econ plus style videos, and it's kind of like, I don't know, ACDC economics, that guy's proper on it he's intense, I swear. Good guy though. Also, make sure you subscribe down below if you are new, and leave a like on the video, of course. Okay, just try to memorize chains of analysis. Okay, so yeah, what maybe this is, when I was revising, I would kind of look at the question, then I would look at the mark scheme, then I would look at all the different chains of analysis that they made in the mark scheme, and I'd try and memorize them so that if I ever came across a similar question, I'd have backup chains of analysis. Graphs in economics, my gosh, graphs. I drew so many graphs, just practice and practice and practice, especially for micro, because there's just so many different graphs that you could be requested to draw, and if you're lucky, you might get an open-ended question where you can draw several different ones. It's AD and AS is easy, but then the micro ones like tariff and all that stuff, monopolistic competition, monopoly, it can be a bit confusing when you've got a lot of similar diagrams, so I made sure I knew them well, and in the exam I drew the diagram that I was 100% confident on. It's like, if this diagram was most relevant, but then you didn't know what it looked like, you'd possibly lose like 3 marks, whereas if you like drew another diagram perfectly, but it wasn't the most relevant, you're going to get more marks because you know the diagram, the examiner thinks you know your stuff. Graphs are quite key like that. So that was one thing that I kind of felt I had to do in my economics exam. Make sure I drew a correct diagram. Make sure your handwriting is readable, because oh my days, like, my handwriting can get messy, and time in economics, my hand was genuinely like dead for a few days after the exam, because it's not, you don't get a lot of time. The same with politics, and it's like, you want to write fast, but just make sure it's readable. Like, forget being neat, as long as you can read it, who cares? And my handwriting in my exams was horrendous, but it was readable. It was big, it was horrendous, it was readable, and that's all that matters really. Obviously if you can write neatly, do write neatly, but it would take me about 3 times as long, and I don't have that time to be writing neatly. I freehand drew the diagrams. Every second kind of counts, I guess. I memorized a few real world examples like oil, like sugar tax. I don't know, you'll probably go over that in class, but I done all that sort of stuff. And then Econ Plus Style's predictions before the exams, he always seems to, I don't know whether I'm being brainwashed because he listed so many topics, but he always seems to get a few of them right. So definitely worth paying attention to what he says when he predicts like the exam questions this year, etc. He is your guy for economics. How else did I revise economics? You know what, to be honest, I listened to a few of the Financial Times podcasts. That gave me a few names that if I ever needed to quote anyone in the exam, then I could. I think I just threw in a few quotes just because I was like, might as well quote some people, because it makes me seem intelligent basically. Like, it didn't really have too much relevance, I think, the quote I made, but I still quoted someone. Past papers, podcast, Econ Plus Style, graph drawing, and just mark schemes. I love mark schemes. Okay, so moving on to government and politics. This is the subject that I had a torrid time with. It's a pure nightmare, like no joke. It's probably one of the most annoying subjects because the content is so much. Like, it just makes me ill thinking about how much content there was. Physically, there's no possible way I could learn all the content on there and have a life at the same time and keep up YouTube, let alone anything else. Obviously, I'll bring out a revision guide for the politics one, and when I say I actually use this purely for my revision, like no joke, this is how I revise. I printed it out, I read over it, I've got examples in there because some of the examples you can spend hours finding, and obviously my teacher gave me examples throughout the whole year, collated them, and then essentially if you guys want them, you can buy the revision guide, and now it comes with everything. I spent a long time in summer like putting it all together, but it's like, obviously it doesn't, I'll let you read it, but it doesn't cover all the content. But when I say, I can't stress, I use this so much, it just condenses everything. Obviously I got a B, an A and A2. Yeah, it's just a good revision guide in my opinion. Go read about it. How did I revise government politics? Because there's no way you can just keep churning out like 45 mark questions or 40 mark questions. It just drives me insane. And past paper planning, I guess you have to do it, but I don't know, I just didn't like it either. I wasn't a big fan of it. So I think I just memorized content and examples. And when I say like, I would memorize a point, then I would memorize an example of that, then I would have a few generic names like politicians, not the most like popular politicians, because then if you make anything up when you Google it, they'll just come up straight away, but more obscure politicians, and some quotes that they would kind of say. Like, they weren't exactly quotes that I could quote word for word, but they roughly said something like it, and I made sure I knew them. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I made up so many quotes during my politics exam. I could have, like, I don't know, I really wish I got my paper back. My teacher didn't even want to predict me a B, so I got predicted a C. I was getting D's all the way up till my exam, because every time I wrote an essay for my teacher, she just thought, oh, well, he's made up all these quotes. And truth be told, I did. I made up one that I said that the Commission was the captain of the EU. Somebody said that. Nobody ever said that. And they won't know every quote. They won't know every politician. They don't have time to Google it. The biggest thing is, because you can't memorize all the points, all the examples, and then quotes on top, because that's ridiculous. There's like so much content. Then you have to memorize quotes for all that content. Then you have to memorize examples for all that content. That's like 3 lots of content. Like, it's just, compared to other subjects, it's quite ridiculous. So I'd say make sure you know examples, and just make sure you know names, but you can, obviously, if you physically can remember them, do it. Good source for quotes, if you do want to learn them, would be YouTube videos, because, you know, for all the examiner knows, I could have met Tony Blair in real life and heard him say this, or he could be my uncle, and then I just asked him to say it, and then he said it, like, you know what I mean? How else did I advise for politics? Revision guides, memorise that. Past papers and mark schemes. So what I did for this, I'd look at, there's so many questions, I look at questions, I think, okay, blah blah blah, yep. Then I think, okay, in my head, what are these points? Got the points, then I look at the mark scheme. Maybe plan some. I rarely ever wrote any full answers during revision, because one, it takes so much time with like so much filler and stuff like that. It was kind of like, I think my time would have been spent more productively just memorizing examples, because once you have your examples and once you have your quotes and once you have your point, your essay just flows anyway. So it's like, you don't really need to practice essay writing itself too much. I'm filming this New Year's Day, and I obviously went out last night for New Year's Eve. Okay, big A-level revision, politics. What about politics? What did I do for politics? Oh, for AS politics, actually, there was a good revision playlist, but there's quite a few revision playlists for like the EU stuff in A2, so I looked at them and watched them videos. The EU Commission have their own like YouTube channel and so on for all the different institutions, and they have good videos on there, so I did use them a lot. Okay, this palm tree. I have no clue what I did for politics. Actually, is that all I did? I think that's all I did, because I'm not being funny, one of my main focuses was maths. I spent most time revising maths. Oh my goodness, I actually can't think I did. Oh, that's how I revised, got it. So the way I actually started to revise initially, and this was useful, it kind of relates to my revision guide. So basically, what I did was, I'd open up loads of different questions, past paper questions, and then instead of going straight to the mark scheme, I'd try and think of the points, obviously, and if I couldn't think of them, my next source would be my revision guides that I made myself throughout the whole year. And what I'd do, I'd search for the keyword on the revision guide. It would come up with like whatever the point was, and then it would come up with the examples for that topic and the quotes for that topic, and I would like plan my answers and build my answers using my revision guide. And that was honestly the most helpful thing that I did. And me in politics getting a B was very, very unpredicted. I done better in politics than I did in maths overall, and I did better in possibly politics than economics, and it could have been my best subject, but it's one of them hit or miss subjects. That's why I like maths so much. It's like, you either get it wrong or you get it right. There's no like, well, I think this is sick, well, I think this is awful. My teacher normally gave me A star throughout the year. Now my teacher's only given, now I got like D in my exam. There's just like none of that. So